Well, ladies and gentlemen, so far we've stuck to our theme wherein we've hopefully inspired you. We've spoken about innovative ways. And of course, we've also spoken about how to integrate what you have learned into the marketing practices. Now let's delve into our next conversation, which is going to be on cross-media measurement in a cookieless era. Ladies and gentlemen, we're honored that we have three great leaders joining us. Starting with our moderator, the person who's going to be curating our conversation ahead, we have Arno Freid, who's the President Commercial for Nielsen's audience measurement business in Asia. In his current role, Arno leads all the commercial operations in the region, working with blue-chip clients across a broad range of sectors, including agencies, advertisers, broadcasters, and digital platforms. We're also going to be joined by our eminent panelists. First up, Shivadeep Banerjee, who is the Chief Digital Marketing Officer of ITC Limited, having been instrumental in evolving the areas like customer and consumer insights and strategy, media and customer care, and having helped higher efficiencies in areas like trademark and IP management. We also have Mr. Vivek Malhotra, the Group CMO and COO Consumer Revenue of India Today. He leads the marketing and strategic planning divisions across the broadcast as well as digital and the publishing properties of India's most respected and pioneering news entity we all know about and we respect, which is India Today Group. So ladies and gentlemen, with that, let's welcome our eminent leaders on the stage, but with a mighty round of applause for all of them. Ladies and gentlemen, Arno Freid, Shivadeep Banerjee, as well as Vivek Malhotra. Thank you so much. Well, Shivadeep, right in the center for you, just seated as for the creative. And Vivek, thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure having you. And with that, Arno, we leave it in your able hands to curate it forward.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the welcome. Wonderful. Before we start, I want to say I'm a little bit starstruck because we've just sharing the stage with the Indian Taylor Swift. You may not know that. But Rajiv here mentioned that his Mogo is playing with every MasterCard transaction, right? So Taylor Swift last year sold 19 million albums. There are 19 billion transactions last year. So you're probably the Indian Taylor Swift. It's impressive, Rajiv. Congratulations. Don't rush him yet, just yet. He'll take photos later. Very impressive. So it's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you very much. I'm Arno Freid. I am the president for Nielsen in Asia. I'm based in Singapore. I've been in the region for about 18 years. And I think the topic today, is, in a way, the title is not as sexy as Rajiv's title, for sure. But I think what it underpins is really quite fundamental, which is all of the transformations that are taking place in the industry of media and the broader ecosystem of content and ads. And that's really what powers everything that every one of you does in this room. And so these kind of transformations are really, really fundamental. The purpose of today is not so much for me to be a moderator, but really to have a conversation with Shivadeep and Vivek on where we see this evolving and what are the implications of this. So maybe to start, Shivadeep, it'll be great to hear from you. We're seeing a lot of changes. There's a lot of transformation. Of course, AI is one of them. What do you see as the kind of main challenges that are impacting your ability to be a marketer and to engage with audiences today in India?
First of all, a big thank you to MMA for having me over. I don't know whether I'll do justice to your question and for your sessions, but let me try an attempt. And thanks for a great panel here. I'll take a step back, and if you're talking about as a marketeer, let's break it up into those big buckets that we always look at: product, let's look at content, and content from an ad perspective, otherwise as well, and then media. So there are three large buckets when we are looking at, and when we're looking at challenges or opportunities, so whichever way we want to look at it. So let's say product to start with. On an average, we took roughly around 1.5 years before we could conceptualize a product and then take it live in the market, right? And there were these traditional ways in which we would do it. Things have altered greatly, and thanks to measurement, thanks to lot of stuff that's happening around us. So there is a feed from social listening, which has got augmented off late because of the Gen AI tools that now the team can read into the images, read into the videos, transcribe it, and then mine these trends. To that one tops up all the secondary work. To that, the crawlers. So there are lots of crawlers that people have put in, crawling through e-com sites, crawling through food tech companies. And I'm talking from a foods business perspective. So that becomes a very rich source. And then partnerships. So let's say you do a lot of partnerships with the retailers, whether they're online, offline, and from them you get to see what is trending. Is it the hazelnut that is trending? Is this what kind of spice is trending right now, and stuff like that. So when you layer all of these, now that becomes, now it's about the challenge, Now, when you layer all of these, so all these information are flowing into you, and now the organization says, 1.5 years, man, that's too long. You have to crunch it to 3 months. So now your data has expanded multifold, and your time to market expectation of time to market has come down. So now the challenge is, how do you synthesize all of this? How do you prioritize where you want to invest? And how do you increase your rate of success? So the challenge stroke opportunity now is using AI, using various other tools and mechanisms, to arrive at all of these. Now this is, let's say, on the product front, and thankfully time has got crunched, but there's a lot to happen yet on this field right now, where we stand. We've just started working with an organization called Gastrograph now, where you just put in a product and it tells you how do you optimize it further, fine-tune it further, again using AI, right? So all that's on product side. Now you come to content. The first big challenge now starts, we all know that we used to advertise to, let's say, 25 to 45 SEC, AB, women for a brand like, let's say, Ashirwad, right? Now, the TG definition is altered significantly. Now, you have different so-called cohorts. The interesting part of it is that you can identify many such cohorts, as fine as you can want to get into, right? So how do you look at that and then create your content? How do you look at creating content not from just advertising content, but also content for your blog, for your own websites, for social media? How do you improve your content score on e-com platforms? And how do you continuously measure that to understand what is working, what is not working, and then make those fine changes, right from TG definition to format into platform, given a brand objective, right? So that's the interesting part of measurement. But let me call out that those measurements today are still very largely getting defined through media matrix, not necessarily always getting defined through brand matrix or even revenue matrix for that matter, because it's got splintered into so many smaller pockets of investments that when you look at effectiveness of your content, how do you really start? Lots of A/B tests, that means a lot of burning of money as well, parallelly. Tools have evolved, a lot of AI tools have also come in. But it is very critical to figure out how, now generative AI parallel being used to create many of these content pieces. So use of technology, but challenges to how to measure effectiveness rather than just staying with media metrics continue at large extent. And if you come to the last bucket called media, I think there are a lot more questions, a lot more unknowns, especially in this country. I have a reverse question for you, but I'll come to that later. Media still, again, there is no cross-media measurement in this country. I think we've just crossed 1 lakh crore, Vivek? 1 lakh crore in media investments? Yes. Yeah. And we still have one television measurement tool. We have many panels right now, so many of us have access to many such panels. We have empirical data. We use probability methods. We still arrive, but we still arrive at reach, some form of reach mechanisms to arrive at your planning, but there is no planning tool for that matter, really a robust one. And to top that, again, you suffer on frequency, in the sense that what could a skippable 5-seconder do to the brand matrix versus a non-skippable 15-seconder do on the same publisher platform, or a reel do, and do I need 5 frequency of that or 10 frequency of this? So media frequency equivalence from a brand and a revenue matrix continues. There is market mix models that gives some kind of indications, which you keep refreshing once in a while, but again, that continues to be a significant issue. CTVs, I hope we will soon get into measuring CTVs, and I hope that's going to happen soon. CTV is growing. As close a brother or a sibling, you can call it, to television. So I think the first one to crack would be a CTV. But still the issue on, the challenge on measuring the rest of the media in singular platform continues to be a big challenge area.
So let's touch on, before your question, I know you have a question, but before that, let's touch on that, Vivek. So from your standpoint, the industry in India has gone much further, right? It's gone very far, but there's still a way to go precisely around cross-media. What do you see as the kind of imperious needs to address before we get there?
I think you gave me a very good induction on the topic, and ladies and gentlemen, you should know that I was expecting to be the moderator. So,
yeah,
so
clearly there's been a mistake.
So while I was collecting first-party data on him, whether D in his name is silent or not, he changed the consumer journey. So it's really thanks MMA to get me together with 2 of my closest friends, and I've been learning a lot from them over the last 1 year. And every time we meet, we sort of enrich first-party data on each other. So, but I mean, on a serious note, I think the world has changed quite a bit. And what Shu was saying, on both of us, and every time when he says something, he has to nudge me saying, please don't take it personally. So both his marketing funnel and my sales funnel were based on some fundamentals that we had, and they were largely on this third-party data. The cookies, as we now call them, basically text files who are deciding where he's going to spend and where I'm going to sell. Now, all that has changed, and I have more data than I've ever had in the marketing history of this country. So the consumer is interacting with me on digital, he is interacting with me on social media, he is interacting with me on my app, he is interacting with me on my website. Despite having so much data, now I have a challenge that everything that I had built, my historic evaluation or segmentation of this consumer is gone. Now what do I do? Therefore, you are actually at an inflection point where you can either take your company as a marketer to the next level, or get drowned into the darkness of not having insights into your audience. And I think the success or the key to this is to put first-party data first, not to rely on everything else. And I think putting first-party data first is actually an answer to most of the problems that Shubhadeep today is facing. And that, according to me, would be a good starting note to this.
I think it's spot on. And also today there is a really big announcement, right? Google announced that they were delaying cookie deprecation to 2025 due to UK regulators. Nonetheless, it's very clear that marketers have to get ready. Nielsen is about to release its annual marketing report. And in it, very interestingly, about 74 to 76% of marketers are still using cookie in all the programmatic work they do, right? So it's quite clear that whilst this was almost coming, right, it almost happened now, nobody is really quite ready. Maybe, Shubhadeep, just to start with you, just how do you think, what is needed for marketers to be faster at getting ready in a context, because you touch on something super important. You mentioned the hyper-fragmentation of audiences, and that's a really huge challenge. So what else can you recommend to the attendees here, but also to your peers, what to do to get ready faster?
I don't know whether I'm in a position of recommendation, but I can talk about what we are attempting
That's
right now. So this understanding of today or tomorrow, cookies are not going to exist. Parallelly, Vivek knows more about my consumer than I do, or my retailer knows more about my consumer than I do. And I think everybody here in this room is aware of those facts. So the activities or the road that we took was at least, I think, around 6 years now, 5.5 years back, where we first created a blueprint that, okay, this is my North Star. What do I need as an advertiser and a marketeer in order to achieve that destination? So while we had all brands having social media handles, the brand assets, so-called apps, whether it's the D2C apps, whether it's any other category stroke brand agnostic ad, and I'll touch upon that point, or your own brand websites. There used to be some tick mark exercises that we as brand managers used to do at one point in time. Now we realize the importance of that. And what is the importance of it? I just need a show of hands from this room, in this room, as to how many of you have gone behind paywalls or in some kind of privacy settings to stop ads coming at you at a very high velocity. So let's assume that that's around 50% plus?
60.
60? So that's the situation of, by the way, as advertisers we have, to advertise on your platforms because it's just not reaching them. And hence the importance of your own brand assets, saying that how can you provide the right value exchange on the platform? Very, very easy words, 2 words to talk about. Very, really difficult thing to really continuously do it. Is there something that I'm being able to give them as consumers? In turn, they are ready to part knowingly with a lot of information which I can utilize, whether to mine them, to understand them better, and hence create content, and also mine them and create cohorts for lookalikes, and then later on media, and so on and so forth. So this became centrality, and hence CDP. CDP was not in that avatar 5-6 years back. It has now become far more refined today. So CDP was in that blueprint. Creating your own brand assets and thinking through how will you create your value exchange became critical. We could only manage to do a few in the beginning of this journey. And then, of course, I talked about brand agnostic platforms. So everybody would have heard many such platforms that Unilever has launched. So as a food manufacturer, we thought that it's important, and there's a lot of conversation that happens on food. But you don't want to be the brand in your face, and specifically the new Gen Alpha and, of course, Gen Zs are definitely, they just stop interacting with you as soon as you become overtly brandy. So how do you create conversations about food and beverage, but not introduce your brands there? And how you can utilize that for various other purposes, whether it's segmentation, whether it's inciting, and so on and so forth. So all of these started to play, and then we had D2Cs, not having definitely only those products which you find in every e-commerce or modern trade or general trade stores, but certain kinds of customizations why they will come there. And in that process, they give you some very, very rich information back. So this was the larger blueprint that one wanted to play out. I think we are still in that journey. And first-party data was a consequence of this. Every time, believe me, when initially I used to start the conversation saying, Martin Sorrell thinks that FPD is very important. First party data is very important. Or XYZ thinks first party data is very important. And that's why we should actually start collecting first party data. I would lose the senior management. I would also lose the young brand managers because for them, generating first party data is not that critical. Doing business and growing brands is more important. So the entire conversation and the entire pitch and the approach and the strategy was brand first, consumer first. Data was an outcome. So I think that's the approach that has been taken, but I think there's lots of stuff to be done yet.
And thinking that this might be not just one example, but an experience that is quite common across the market, do you feel that also why there is, we are where we are in terms of cross-media measurement? Is that your perspective, Vivek?
Yeah, I agree with him. I don't have a choice now that he started conducting exit polls on my behalf. I saw this, so I'll have to sort of return the favor and give him some data for the ITC consumer. So, while he very humbly says that, there are some starting steps, but I think a lot of you don't know that they have the most downloaded app with retailers of ITC products in the country. They have a supply chain management in ITC that runs on an app, and inventory orders happen over an app. So therefore, he's obviously not losing his top management on this one, and they're taking him very seriously. But where I can actually add value, and where he says value exchange, and I think the real value, and as to why I've not been able to unlock that for him till now, a couple of things. So one is, when the digital advertising started and there was an obsession with performance, you were always looking at that bottom tip of the funnel. The brand managers under him and, rightfully CMOs were looking at that bottom of the tip. And I was also interested in giving him that and making my money. Now we realize that everything that was, sort of underwater, I have to now know. It's not that one touch point where the journey starts and ends. I need to know the whole journey, and for him to leverage my audiences, he needs to know what my journey is like. And that journey needs to have one unique identifier which is common to him and me. It needs to be relevant to him. So I am that contact point which has something which is relevant to that audience, and that audience information which I pick up is relevant to him. So therefore, it's very critical for me to give him firstly the visibility of that entire journey and why it makes sense to him. To allow him to build the cohort. So since now he may not have an algo already working for him, I can give him a probabilistic model of a cohort. Now, I am not able to do that today because I don't have the tools. I have visibility only of what's happening on my sites. So what's happening on my channels, what's happening on my sites. So even there, I can't do a 3-screen dedupe, let alone a 4-screen dedupe. So if he adds CTV, I can't do a 4-screen dedupe because even just on the digital platform, I can't do a 3-screen dedupe. So that's my challenge number 2. And therefore, I feel that makes, this cross-media measurement even more important because he's operating with his consumer cross-media and I am touching my audience's cross-media. And therefore, it needs to move away from delivery into a habit. Yeah. Now, we were, that brings us back to the 2 basic fundamentals of any marketing campaign, reach and frequency. We had over time drifted away from this, because there were so many vendors, there's a CTV feed, there is, there's a performance metric, there is affiliate, there is this, and there's nothing. And let alone all of this, just the definition of viewability. Is 3-second a view, is 10-second a view, a completed view a view, or watching your spot a view? We don't have any standardization there. Therefore, as I see it, between your company and between the media vehicles, it's very important to give him a unified view on his consumer so that we can unlock more value. That to me is the more important point, and the only key to that is cross-media measurement so that you can give him one reach number.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a segue into your question, but I think you're completely right. For us, so Nielsen, if you don't know, is the only media measurement company today that has a large-scale commercial cross-media deduplicated service in the largest advertising market in the world, which is America, right? So we call it Nielsen One. It's something that we're rolling out globally, hopefully at some stage in India, and I think it's long overdue, frankly, and that's certainly one of the objectives of the renewed investments we're making in this market. Extremely important for us. So maybe let's lead into your question, because I suspect it connects to that.
Very good. That's why I love researchers, you know. They can intuitively tell what the question is coming.
I took a small sample.
So Arno, the question is actually on the same front, saying that what are the big challenges that I'm sure you've studied the Indian media industry. What do you see are the biggest challenge for that Nielsen One product solutioning to come into this country? Or what are the challenges? It could be technical set of challenges. It could be environmental set of challenges. What do you see are a bunch of challenges which you think, and there are lots of people in this room who would probably be able to galvanize this. So what are those?
So I think there are probably, broadly speaking, three challenges, and I don't think they're specific to India per se. I think they're just challenging of making these things happen. I think the first one is, overall, I would say regulatory is the interest and the support of government entities in particular in really thinking about how to bring this properly and do it the right way. We see in some markets in Asia, for example, there is really a lack of support, and that really has a definite weight on the ability for a company like ours to really bring the technology and the services and the investment required. And I really don't think it's the case here, but that's certainly one component, is really doubling down on the interest and the engagement, in particular in relation to broadcasting bills, in relation to a number of things which certainly are of importance and of interest to us. The second is obviously the clamor of the industry. Right? And I think that's really important. We have two very important leaders of the industry on stage over there. And, I think it's...
That's two of me.
Okay, don't be so polite. I'm talking about both of you, plus Taylor Swift over there. But, it's really important, I think, to recognize that this also comes from a vocal industry voice being really keen and engaged in supporting it. The technology part is certainly relevant. I would say that from our standpoint, the technology is extremely robust, proven. It's not necessarily a huge part. The part from our standpoint is making sure that the investment makes sense. And I think, that's really where we find the right partners, the right way to engage, the right business model, because ultimately we, of course, are a business. And so making sure that there is the right way to engage and the right way to collaborate, and there is that trust that really develops, especially with some of the key players in part of the components that make cross-media deduplicated effective and measurement effective. So to me, I think we're not really far, to be honest, because I find that, in conversations with various parts of the government, there is definitely a vision. There is definitely an ambition. I don't think there is any more ambitious country than India. And I think there is a fantastic energy there in that respect. So that's the first one, almost there, very much willing. The second one, I think the industry is in dire need of it because you're describing hyperfragmentation, but the connective to hyperfragmentation is waste. And the amount of money that gets wasted is colossal. And of course, that's where accurate third-party independent measurement comes in to really help companies invest properly, know where to put their ad spend, know where to develop content and all of those correlated benefits, right? So I think the industry is there. And the third element is, I think, demonstrated in the way certainly Nielsen is coming to India today, not just building a bigger team, a better team, but also investing heavily here. We are positioning one of our global capability center in this market. We only have 3 globally. India is one of our markets. We're in the process of hiring a large number of people, of colleagues, to take on really important tasks to build some of the work we do globally, not just here in India. But of course, it would benefit India. Our Chief Technology Officer is based in this country, and I think it's a huge sign that we're taking this opportunity and this mission extremely, extremely seriously. So that's the way I would answer your question. I genuinely hope that within the next 6 months, 12 months, we're starting to have extremely concrete conversations. We are also in the process of working on some really exciting things. You've touched on a few topics. We'll have more to say later on those. And I think there are some really interesting things that are coming that really bring, I think, to me, one of the world's most energetic, dynamic markets forward in terms of how we really measure the impact of what's happening here. And so, yeah, for me, it's really just extremely exciting. Us being here today is not because we're sponsoring this event, it's because we really believe that communicating, engaging with the broader industry is critical, and we're extremely excited at the opportunity to do that more, do that ongoing, and I certainly encourage people in the audience to reach out. And I'm also, by the way, looking to hire a number of people. So if you want a job and you're good at hunting business, come and talk to me. But it's really, really important, I think, because beyond the business, beyond the conversation, there is a huge opportunity about what the mission is. And the mission is really better data, better measurement, and a lot more reliable ways to understand what people do and how people spend. So that's critical.
Sorry, I know we're just a minute away, and Vivek, I'm sure, is bubbling with some questions with
For
him.
sure.
But just give me 10 seconds more. Just help us quantify. You've delivered this in US.
Yeah.
Pre this tool in that country and post, just help us quantify what was the average percentage improvement in every dollar that got spent. So what is the efficiency matrix that we are looking at? So 1 lakh crore Indian rupees in terms of the media?
Yeah,
I don't
have a specific
What are we
number.
missing out?
No, I don't have a specific number, but I think we have actually, it's a good question. We have plenty of data on that, and I think not just us, but the broader industry has plenty of data. I think the answer is multifaceted. There is a direct impact, there is a side connected impact on a number of aspects of the entire media and audience spend chain. And I think you're right. We definitely need to look at how we bring that vision to India and really, put numbers to it. It's almost time's up. It doesn't say time up. Don't worry.
No, I don't have a question. I have a resume. But I think as a closing statement to this, I very firmly see 3 very, very strong drivers. One is that the advertising is going to move into contextual advertising. Sure. And on that background, I see Nielsen having 2 very, very unique strengths. One is that you all have so much data, and therefore your machine learning techniques and probabilistic modeling in this scenario is going to be better than anybody else. The other thing that I really see, and why I and Shuo have been very eagerly waiting for a solution like this, is that you have the capability to run a panel and a universe together. So basically running a panel which gives you depth on the consumer and then the ability to extrapolate it onto a universe, because we've gotten used to universe numbers in the digital space. Yeah. That I think is very unique, and we wish you luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much today, and thank you for the audience for listening to us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arnaud, for joining us and helping us curate the discussion, and of course to all our leaders for giving in their bits. We'd also like an opportunity of calling upon Aparajita Biswas, Brand Manager at Love Child by Masaba, to help us with the token of appreciation for all our leaders on stage. A big, big round of applause for Ms. Biswas. And we'd like you to do us the honors of presenting the token of appreciation, starting with Arnaud. And I think a warm round of applause can only be appreciated on stage, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, Shubhadeep and Vivek. And may we have all of you in a frame with, of course, showing the plaques on the screen so that we can have all of you together in one photograph. Ladies and gentlemen, a big, big round of applause for our incredible panel for curating this great conversation for us and giving us their insights.